Welcome back, humor consumers, to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm comedian Tracy DeGraff.
And I'm Catherine, co-host and bestie.
Welcome back to the Pod Lab, Catherine.
Thank you.
We had a week off. I don't know if anybody paid any attention to it, but we were off last week, in case you didn't know.
Yeah,
celebrating the 4th of July.
That's right.
Which
doing family stuff.
Yeah, it was nice. Our 4th of July, I just want to say this, it was nice and quiet.
Oh, that's right. Besides the booms outside the neighborhood,
yes,
right?
We definitely had neighbors that had, just some enthusiasm. Let's call it that. So they were firing off fireworks and such. But it was just a nice, quiet, low-key holiday. We didn't go anywhere, and we didn't really do anything. So it was great.
Yeah, we went to Kenny's brother and our sister-in-law's house. And
fun.
And the kids, Patrick and Lainey went, and Ellis and Tristan, and then our niece was there with her partner and their little baby, and it was it was relaxing. It wasn't, Oh, and my mother-in-law.
Yeah, very good.
So, yeah, nice.
Well, hopefully you all had a good, at least you Americans who are listening, because we do have listeners, from around this globe.
We do.
We do. So welcome back to all of y'all. Mm-hmm. And for any of you who are Americans like us, hope you had a good 4th of July, and hope you're ready to get back into routine. We are bringing you episode number 229. And today, friends, we're covering a documentary. And it's not going to be such a funny, lighthearted subject at all.
No.
It's not. But here's what happened. The name of the episode that we're doing today is Ken and Barbie Killers, The Lost Murder Tapes. Okay, that's the name of the documentary that we are covering. Here's how we ended up on it. Catherine's daughter, Emily, was visiting from Florida, okay, because they had a family vacation, and then she was here afterwards for a few days, and she wanted to watch this documentary. Well, the two of them invited me to come and watch it with them. And so then Catherine and I were like, well, let's do a podcast on it.
Right.
Because,
make use of the time.
Right. We're kind of pressed for time, and I don't know. It just seemed like, well, yeah, let's do it. I didn't know anything about it. Had never heard of it.
No, we hadn't either.
Well, we watched it. It was 4 parts or 4 episodes, I guess. And that's not too, we binged it, all of it at once.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I know some people from Canada. I've never met a Canadian that I do not love. I mean, Canadian people are very kind, loving, warm, friendly, like appropriate, all the things.
Okay.
But these people were from Canada, and they were none of the above.
They were not, but they were very rare. It's very rare in that, especially in the era in which these crimes happen.
Yeah.
And especially in the particular 2 different neighborhoods that they happened in.
Yeah.
That kind of thing was unheard of. So it was it was a very unusual situation.
Thank God, because they were complete nut jobs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me give you just like the overview. We are going to review this documentary. So heads up, if you want to watch it before we give you any spoilers, go watch it. Again, it's called Ken and Barbie Killers, The Lost Murder Tapes. But I would say don't even watch it. Just listen to us.
Yeah, it was I felt kind of heavy afterward.
Yeah. I wouldn't watch it again. You know what I mean? I'd be
no. I did watch just today, just to get freshened up for this podcast. I watched this thing called Very Scary People, and they covered
a little bit of this.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. And so we're going to give you a review of that documentary. We're also going to kind of tie it to the current news of the day.
The headlines.
Yeah. I mean, right here in our good country, right? We just had the trial of P. Diddy, Sean Combs, and the results of that trial have just come forward, and he was accused of some pretty horrific things, but apparently found not guilty of much of that. And also in the Christian world, Christian musician and artist Michael Tate of the band DC Talk, as well as Newsboys, also has his own issues. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Our third takeaway, hopefully what you're going to come away with from this episode, is things in the dark must be brought to the light.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that a little bit.
Right.
As usual, we have some scripture to share with you and a call to action. So hang in there with us, even though this isn't going to be anything lighthearted and funny. It is definitely going to be purposeful and impactful is our hope.
That's our hope, right? As always.
Yeah. Quickly, before we jump in, Catherine, tell any new listeners how they can find out more about us and tell them about our new...
Yeah, I just all of a sudden remembered, gosh, there's a new place to go to if you would like to sponsor us.
Yes.
Okay, which we hope you do. And we are very grateful for our current sponsors. That helps us put this, platform out, or rather... this podcast out. We have a platform that we pay for every month, and it costs money to, for the equipment and all the stuff. And so now, Tracy, we have a new
web
address, and it is Life Happens, Laugh Anyway. You can go to that.
Nope.
No?
That's not it.
Oh, gosh. You're going to have to say it.
It's Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast.com.
Oh. Yes.
Because you know what happened, Catherine?
What?
Somebody out there purchased
Oh, that's right.
the lifehappenslaughanyway.com, because they could see that we've got something going here.
Yeah.
And they bought that URL before
Right from
we
under
got
you.
it.
Yeah.
And I tried to get it, but they wouldn't give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, fine, we're going to be Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast.
Now, did you purchase that?
Yeah, that's why you can go there now.
Oh, okay.
You have
I
to-
don't know. I don't know how
You
it
have to
works.
buy the URL before
Oh.
it can go anywhere.
Okay.
It's like a stamp on an envelope. If you put a blank envelope in the post box, it's going to sit there. I have to put it into terms that we understand.
Good. That was a good one.
But if you go to lifehappenslaughanywayypodcast.com, you will find just our podcast page. Now, it's part of my regular website because we don't have that kind of money to pay for a whole nother website. So we're basically just sending people to this page.
Okay.
And you'll be able to see all the episodes there and a place where you can sponsor us.
Very good.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm going to have to practice that. Okay.
All good. All right. Well,
Yeah.
let's get into it. Mm-hmm. Let's do a review of the documentary. If somebody's listening and they were like us, they had never heard of it, you're so good at summarizing, I feel.
You think?
I
Or
do.
you just
No, I feel
give
like
me
you...
a pep talk.
No, Catherine, I would not lie to you, Catherine. I would not. I am your truth teller. You know I'm your girl.
We're laughing because she just pulled something out that shows proof that she would tell me the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a little inside joke.
It is, because we're besties for the restie. And you can't get away from me because I got your secrets.
That's right.
Anyway, no, I'm telling the truth. I believe that you're a good summarizer.
Okay.
So give our listening audience a summary of Ken and Barbie Killers, the Lost Murder Tapes.
Well, as we mentioned, this was in Canada, and the time frame we're talking about is 1987, May 4th to be exact, to 1992, that these assaults happened. In the beginning, from 87 to 1990, they were in Scarborough, Canada, which is a very nice neighborhood, and crime was pretty much unheard of. And these were young girls around the ages of 14, 15, typically. And they were... Oh, what is that?
It's my
Oh,
doorbell.
my goodness. I'm not used to hearing
my
a doorbell.
never rings.
Yeah. I'll continue to... Yeah, I'll continue. And these gals, there were 19 total that were assaulted, and the term that we're going to use is SA because we don't want to trigger anyone that might be affected by this.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back.
Who was that?
It was Ella, the neighbor.
Oh.
We had attended her 8th grade graduation party, and she was bringing over a little thank you.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what is that?
I know.
Doorbell? We are in the 2020s. I mean, you don't hear doorbells anymore.
I know. Like, you didn't have the decency to text me.
Yeah,
before
like a
you
text
came
would...
over.
I'm here. Or beep, beep. You know, that's the kind of thing you get.
I'm sorry, but when you think about it, that's what we do now.
I know.
Like, we text people, can I call you?
Yeah.
We
I know.
text
Are
people,
you free?
I'm here, I'm coming.
It's so weird. Why do we text that? Are you free? Can you talk? It's so strange.
Do you know, one time I was with our son Adam.
Yeah.
Okay, and Adam was wanting to get a hold of Andrea, the realtor who lives next door to you.
Oh.
Okay, and I said, well, I have her phone number. And he goes, oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
And so I pressed the button to call her, and he goes, you're calling her? Like, just like that?
Oh, yeah. The
I'm
kids
like,
had told me
yeah.
when they were dating, it's weird to call
Someone.
the newbie person you might be dating. It's weird, they said. You have to text.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
I'm sorry for that tirade.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
back.
So I was explaining when you dashed over toward the door that we're using the term SA, that there were 19 of them between 87 and 1990, and they were in Scarborough, Canada. And during this time, one of the gals that was victimized went to the police, and she gave an excellent description, and a sketch artist was able to put together a face, and it looked exactly
It sure did.
like who the culprit was, this Paul. And we'll talk about Paul and Karla, but I'm just going to summarize real quick, you know, the basic story. And the police interviewed him, and this guy was charming, and he was young. He was only 23 at the time, or 22, and so the police thought, nah, it's not him.
He was good looking. He was.
Well, you know what that term, charm the pants off of you, you know, that
Yeah.
is kind of...
And that's why the Americans call it the Ken and Barbie Killers. You know, because they look like Ken and Barbie, like the Barbie dolls, right? And I checked in with my friend Tess, who is a Canadian, and she grew up in Canada, obviously. And I said, are you familiar with the Ken and Barbie Killers? And she said, no, what's that? And then I told her what it was related to. She goes, oh, yeah, everybody in Canada knows and knew that who these people were, but they had not heard it called the Ken and Barbie Killer, or she hadn't. We added that, the U.S. people.
Oh, okay, because I thought that Ken and Barbie was a thing there too, for something I read, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I
know.
just asked her if she knew about it, and she said no. But if she said anybody in the country of Canada. Now, this all was taking place when we were having our O.J. Simpson trials. Remember that? In the early 90s. The trial. The trial.
Yeah. The trial, the murder, yeah.
All of the stuff in the news.
It.
It was all in the news, okay? And that was the same time that our O.J. stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And she said if you lived in Canada in that time frame, you knew what the crime was about.
Yeah. In fact, the documentary had said that as well, because it was so huge.
Yeah.
And somebody had even coined, actually, I think that Paul himself started, when he would be attacking his victims, he would say at some point, I'm the Scarborough, whatever label it was. And he did strange things like demand that they tell him he's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting off track there. But, okay, so that's what happened between that time period. And he also during that time period, he meets this Karla, who's a couple years, 2 or 3 years younger than he is.
She was actually 6 years younger than him.
Oh, was she?
Yes. There was a pretty big age difference.
Oh, right, because she was 17.
Yeah, so actually she was kind of underage and he was,
Yeah, I heard on something I was listening to that in Canada...
It's not a crime?
No.
Yeah, well...
Yeah, I don't know how accurate it was, because this other person is kind of like us. It's a podcast.
Kind of clueless.
By a girl who does makeup while she talks about crime on Mondays. Okay? So, I don't know. But that's what she said.
Yeah.
She seemed believable to me.
Okay. Well, I'll buy it.
Yeah. Anyway, he and Karla date. Now, on the documentary, this friend of Paul, who's kind of blacked out, he says, because he doesn't want to be seen. He's
right.
Just
he wants to
horrified
remain
by
anonymous.
Yeah, exactly. And he said that Karla was kind of homely, and that she was basically, lucky to be seen and wanted by this Paul, who was very popular and such. But that's not the information I got from other sources. She was a very pretty girl.
Well, and you could look at her picture and see that she was pretty.
Well, yeah, but you could be pretty and still kind of lonely.
Well,
Anyway.
Any which way, they ended up together.
They ended up together. And, okay, now, 1992, they get married, and in between this time, Paul moves to St. Catharines in Canada. It's like 85 miles away, and the essays stop. But then 2 girls are missing 1 year apart, 1991, 1992. These girls are missing, and both of them young. Both of them had a bright future, and it was just tragic all around. One was Leslie McAfee. The other was Kristen French.
Yes,
was her name.
Yes.
And both of them with loving parents and just the circumstances, which we might talk about, were just horrible. Well, they both turn up dead. And it turns out that Karla was involved with this, and so was Paul. And it had escalated from what he was doing before to now it's murder.
Yeah.
Okay. In between this time, they had recorded what they did, but the tapes were missing for a long period of time. There was a lawyer that was involved, and he was told by Paul where these tapes were, and the lawyer had the bright idea of hiding them. So eventually that comes out, because you can't hide things in the dark too long, because usually light is shed on the darkness. Well, he was let go. I don't even know if he was disbarred, but he could no longer be on the case.
He had to get his own lawyer at that point.
Oh my gosh.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Well, and remember that at that time, recording something wasn't as simple as just pulling out your phone and getting a digital copy of it that you could download somewhere or whatever.
Right.
You had to have one of those big honking video, the VHS tapes that go in there.
That hurt your shoulder.
Or you could have those little micro tapes. I don't know what they used. But he was into filmmaking. He was into it. Like, whatever it was, he was recording.
Yeah.
And obviously, the people around them didn't know that they were doing these terrible, evil acts.
Oh, no. Wait till we get to that.
But they were recording them. So the two of them, Paul and Karla, knew that these things were recorded.
And that the tapes existed.
Correct.
Karla, who later went to the police, by the way, she says to the police, he's sick, he's done this, and by the way, there's 6 tapes. I don't know where they are, she says, but there are tapes. Well, later on, when Paul is deep in trouble, he tells his lawyer, yeah, there are tapes. Go get them. And he tells him, and by the way, the authorities went to their home, and they were there for 17 weeks and never found the tapes. They tore the house apart, supposedly, but yet the tapes were there. Yeah. All you had to do was unscrew this light fixture and reach up in there. Now, I get it that you wouldn't think of that, but it's in the attic. Like, the tapes were, and maybe they were under insulation, that I don't know, but they were there up in the attic. And
either way, the cops couldn't find the tapes.
Yeah.
So Karla thought that the tapes were not going to be found, but Paul obviously knew that the tapes were there. And Karla had thrown Paul under the bus, claiming that he forced her into these murders because she was definitely aware these women were not only kidnapped, but they were then, abused and vandalized and all of the things. And then they were ultimately murdered, where Paul had been doing all these other essays, in Scarborough, all of those, like where he was the Scarborough rapist or whatever they called him, they labeled him. He was doing all of that without Karla.
Correct.
But then when she got involved, then the murder started happening. So she decided to tell. She went to the cops to tell on Paul.
In the way the documentary plays this out, you as the viewer are like, oh yeah, she's abused. She's under his thumb.
Yeah.
And yes, of course she's going to go along with it. She's got the
she has no choice.
Victimization, battered woman thing going on.
Yeah. And
so you're led to believe that. Then a little bit later into the documentary, there is this, she works with the lead attorney who defends Paul. And she says, but then we found the tapes. And she said how horrible they were and that Karla's a part of it. And I literally was thinking, oh, yeah, of course you're going to say that because you're defending Paul.
Right.
But then you learn more as it goes on. And they were so bad. These tapes were so bad that jurors, the parents of the victims, they were deeply affected, and other people too who had
anybody who had to view
people
them
in authority. Yeah,
they affected them.
Yeah, they had to seek counseling. It was that bad. Somebody couldn't be with her husband. One of the jurors couldn't be with her husband for a long time, and they were that bad.
Obviously we didn't see the tapes.
No, thankfully.
And I think I would say this though about something like that, right? I think that when you are viewing that, you're looking right into the face of evil. You are looking at some of the darkest, deepest evil that can possibly exist.
And you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And also, it sounds like things that happened like you can't even imagine.
Yeah. When we were watching the docuseries or whatever, there was a point when I said out loud, oh, I hope she's safe. Meaning Karla.
Yeah.
Because I was buying it. I was hook, line, and sinker. Well, yeah, I mean, he's an abuser. He's nuts.
Well, we already knew what he had done in Scarborough. So we knew his character.
Right.
And also his friend said that he witnessed him being abusive to Karla.
Right.
So we had that as well.
And
her crying.
Forgive me if I've missed it because of when I had to run out and get the doorbell. But when we were talking about the law enforcement lady who created the sketch, which it was actually digitized, which was interesting to me that it wasn't like a sketch artist drawing of her drawing out the sketch. It was like input that she put into, I mean, she might have sketched it a little bit, but it was like all this input that was put into a computer and then it was digitized and made to look like a person.
Back then?
Yeah, I know. That's why it surprised me.
Yeah, wow.
Well, anyway, when people came forward to say, hey, that looks like Paul. What's his last name? Bernardo. That looks like Paul Bernardo, right?
Yeah.
He was picked up and interviewed twice.
Right, I mentioned that.
By the police. And nobody could suspect because he was so clean cut. And he was actually an accountant.
Yes, he was.
I mean, that's pretty clean cut. I've got a couple of background things about Paul. I just want to share this.
Okay.
These are kind of like little did you knows.
Okay.
Because as we were watching it, we didn't see a lot on the documentary about his background. Like, how could somebody be this sick?
Yeah, right.
Well, I found out through my little sleuthing, with the Google thing. Paul's dad, his dad's name was Kenneth Bernardo. He was also allegedly a predator. Okay. So he was, Paul actually said that dad sexually essayed, whatever you call it, the sister, his older sister.
Oh, gosh.
And he was, for sure, charged with voyeurism. This Paul's dad was charged with voyeurism, which is, if you don't know what that means, it's like looking in somebody's window to try to watch them, like, be undressed or whatever. Paul also was guilty of that.
Yeah.
Paul's mom, Marilyn Bernardo, and this is according to Paul's own statement in 2024 at his parole hearing, because obviously he was found guilty of these crimes and he was put away in jail for life. Okay. But he had like 25 years that he had to serve and then he could come up for parole.
Okay.
And then now every 2 years he has to go before a parole board and have a hearing.
Okay.
This is since 2024. So he's had one.
Yeah.
And he's up for another one or whatever. Well, anyway, the families of all these victims are petitioning the court to try to get that extended to 5 years.
Jeez.
So they don't have to go to the hearing or appear by Zoom and relive all this
be
awful.
re-victimized.
Well, anyway, he said at his own parole hearing in 2024 that says his mom, was sexually abused as a child when she was bounced around from foster home to foster home. So these are Paul's parents, okay? His mom, according to him, was sexually S8. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be...
I know.
But I'm not quite getting there.
Yeah.
His mom was S8 as a child, bouncing around from foster home to foster home. He claimed that his mother was depressed and she moved into the family basement. She also had agoraphobia. This was all from Paul.
What's agoraphobia?
You know, that's the one where you're afraid to leave the house.
Okay.
So you have like these anxieties about being out. Get this. At his parole hearing, he claimed he didn't get enough hugs. Come on.
Wow. I did hear that he had a troubled upbringing, but yet he was a bright, good-looking young man with a bright future, very outgoing, very popular.
He did well in academics.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Boy Scout. He was a lifeguard. I already said that about his parole. Okay, get this. He torched his mom's belongings. So they had an argument, he and his mom. His mom, in a fit of rage, told Paul when he was a teenager that your father is not your father.
Oh, I did hear that, actually. Yeah.
She said that she had an affair with somebody and that his biological father didn't want anything to do with him. And he went into a rage and he took all of her belongings and lit them on fire.
Wow.
Oh, and then she called him a name. She called him a bastard from hell.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't mean to say I can understand. Here's what I'm thinking. His rage, because I did hear that was a trigger for him, that she had, I didn't know he burned her clothes or belongings or whatever, but that she had said that to him. And witnesses say he did change after that. And I wonder, like, his rage toward his mother and father probably as well, then is transferred and projected onto all these people he attacked, It's got to be.
Well, yeah. I don't know, like, what causes somebody to be that...
No, I don't either, but...
sociopathic or psychopathic or whatever you call it, but he definitely had it. By 1986, Paul had 2 restraining orders against him from, like, former girlfriends and such. Paul and Karla met at a pet convention.
Yes. Well, she was there for that, and she was at a Howard Johnson, and he and some friends went there late at night to eat at the 24-hour restaurant.
Well, that comes into play later, the pet thing, because she worked at a veterinarian clinic. Now, get this. Before Karla even met Paul, her friends described her as dark.
Yeah, I did not hear any of that.
Well, she was involved in Ouija boards and, like, the dark arts. She was fascinated with death. She actually wanted to dig up her dead cats and, like, see their bodies and such.
Oh.
She took, like, now this is all according to her friends, okay? She took, like, a hamster or a gerbil or something and put a parachute on it and threw it out, like, a window to see if it would fly or, what would happen.
Oh, my gosh. Jeffrey Dahmer.
It didn't make it. I mean, it just doesn't work, so don't try that. Paul was a camp counselor, a summer camp counselor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Paul was caught several times as a youngster peeping into his neighbor's windows. So these are people that are involved in hurting animals, starting things on fire, and, like, deviant sexual behavior.
I have to say something. I just got a chill down my spine because Ellis called me yesterday telling me that her friend has a woman who stands in front of her window staring at her, even when, I'll just say her friend Casey stares back at her. And there's been reports of this woman doing that in an area.
Wow.
Just staring. She has no idea who this woman is.
Okay, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to give this statistic also. In 1990, police got a break in the rape case because they didn't know forever and ever, right? Finally, they had somebody who could describe him, and that's how they got the sketch. They had over 700 persons of interest.
Wow.
You know, over 700 people that could be the guy, right? Mm-hmm. And they did, as a routine, they asked these individuals all to provide samples of their DNA, which they all did, including Paul. Because remember, we already said Paul's friend turned him in, and a couple other of his friends did too. Hey, that's Paul. Mm-hmm. And when he got there to the cops, and he said, sure, yeah, I'll give you my DNA. So he gave his DNA.
Yep.
But this was at the infant stages.
Very much so. That's right. And are you going to...
Well, it took 2 years for them to get the results of the DNA.
Oh, I thought it was longer.
No, it was 2 years. And they had 1 or 2 technicians that were processing over 50,000 DNA samples. Now, these were not just DNA samples for this case. These were DNA samples across the whole country. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that today the DNA situation has improved greatly.
Yeah, I did hear that the DNA sat on a shelf for a very long time before they were even processed.
Yeah.
That's sad because all these other victims and these 2 murders wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Which, by the way, I'm just going to mention because I'm afraid I'm going to forget. Mm-hmm. When Leslie McAfee's body washed up, well, fishermen found it. Part of her body was in concrete in lake, forget the name of the lake. But anyway, it was the same day as the wedding of Paul and Karla. Yeah. The same day.
Yeah.
Ugh, some other thing. Do you have more to read?
What? Go ahead.
Well, when I think about that, how that was the same day, I can't help but think about how, kind of fast forward, or maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was before that, but when Paul moved in to Karla's home, where her parents were there, her 2 younger sisters, and unbeknownst to the parents, Christmas Eve, Paul convinces Karla to give him a gift of the younger sister, who was, what was she, 14?
Yeah, Tammy.
And so they give her some alcohol. They give her, well, Karla herself gets is it formaldehyde? What is it?
I forgot the name of it, but it's a drug that's used to
subdue animals.
Right, like horses and whatever.
Yeah, and it's in a cloth. And she covered her sister's mouth with it and let Paul say. And then we find out much, much later that Karla did as well with her own sister.
Yeah.
And this happened with the parents upstairs.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, and she died. And all this time, the parents thought that it was just she choked on her own vomit. And that's how she died. And then Karla and Paul insisted that they still get married 6 months later. And it was a big, expensive, all-out wedding. And the parents were, this is not in the documentary. This was in something else I got. The parents were, can we slow the brakes down? We've got to pay for the funeral. Plus,
they're grieving.
Yeah. And Karla just thought nothing of it. No.
I think that shows you that Karla most likely is completely void of emotions.
Yeah.
Like, how could you have any sort of emotion?
I think she also had to have been a psychopath.
Right.
She had to have been.
100%, yes.
Yeah. So,
and let me say this about the mother. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember now the mother's name of Karla and Tammy, but I feel so bad for her.
I know.
I feel so bad for her because she not only did she lose her baby daughter, to death at the hands of her other daughter.
Yes.
What a complex
situation
for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And to learn that, it had to be devastating. I just can't imagine. One more thing too about what goes on when you're right there in the home. Mm-hmm. the parents came for an Easter, gathering at Karla and Paul's home when they had their own home. They're up having Easter, and down below are these girls that I don't know if they were both there at the same time. I don't think so. One of them was.
Right, Kristen was.
Was it Kristen?
Yeah.
And she's in their basement being tortured.
I think she was dead already.
Was she dead already?
When they had the family there, they had already killed her.
Yes, that's right. That's right. They did.
And I want to say that one of them was killed on Father's Day. I can't remember now, but
oh yeah,
it was. Right. But so that goes to just the audacity.
I know, and the mother had wanted to go downstairs to get some baked goods or something. Yeah. I don't remember, and what's his name? Paul says, no, I'll go down and get it. And I don't know.
By the way,
I just can't even.
I found out that Paul and Karla tried to do this to Tammy earlier than what they actually did it.
Oh, really?
They tried it earlier they poisoned her food with Valium.
That's right.
They put Valium in her spaghetti.
Where'd they get that?
It
had
Valium?
to be the vet?
I'm not sure. Maybe it was. But they laced her spaghetti with it, and they couldn't get her to the right level or whatever.
Oh, my gosh.
Anyway, I might be getting some of the details mixed up, but long story short, they were able to drug and assault and kill Tammy. I don't know that they purposefully killed her, if they intended to kill her, or just like hoping that she would wake up and then just her body gave out, because they did give her a bunch of alcohol and she was vomiting and she choked on her own vomit, and then she had these burn marks on her face.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Well, the autopsy notated that
right.
there were burn marks on her face, but they just sort of poo-pooed it and thought, oh, I don't know what that's about, but she died from, this vomit.
Right. I don't know. It just, even if they didn't intend to kill her, they're still just as guilty.
Oh,
they know how dangerous, they've got to know how dangerous that is. And it's just such depravity anyway.
Yeah, and on the day of Tammy's funeral, they put a photo of themselves inside of her coffin.
Did they?
They did.
Oh my God, they're sick. They're definitely psychopath.
Very much so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So fast forward, so they did all of this stuff to Tammy, right?
Yeah.
And they got away with it. Because they 6 months later, they had their fairy tale wedding, and in between those 6 months, they killed the girls, that body that was found.
Yeah.
So as body parts are being found, and then the other girl was found in a ditch. And they're putting it together that these crimes are connected. These two girls, okay. Mm-hmm. Karla starts to see the writing on the wall.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
They're starting to pull it together, and she freaks out a little bit. Well, Paul beats her up. He beat her up for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't remember.
So she didn't beat herself? I mean, I don't know how she could, because her eyes were black.
They claimed that Paul beat her up, and then had the friend that was darked out, he claimed that Paul was very violent with her. Yeah, well, she went to the cops, and she never did go back to Paul after that. And that's when she threw him under the bus.
Right.
And she said, he is the Scarborough rapist.
And she talks like this, and she came to the police in like a I don't know what, but schoolgirl look. Very innocent.
She took them back to the house, the scene of the crime, and dressed up like a schoolgirl.
Right. Because
these two girls were so young, and they were part of the school. This one girl was walking home from school in her school uniform.
Well, she was. You're talking about Kristen?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the church parking lot.
Yeah, in the broad daylight.
Yes, asking for. Or no, that was Karla that was asking for directions, I believe. And that's how they lured her into the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Karla freaked out, and she told the cops, this is the Scarborough rapist that you have been looking for. And by the way, there's more. He murdered also these two girls that you found and my sister. She admits it. that she knew about it, but that's where she claims victim herself, and she says he forced her, and that's when he gets they go and pick him up, which thank God they got him off the street, but it really was the two of them turning on each other.
Yeah.
And the cops were able to convict him successfully and put him behind bars for the rest of his life. But with Karla, sadly, she did a plea deal. She said, in exchange for my testimony and cooperation, I want something from you. They gave her only 12 years. Well, they gave her that before they saw the tapes.
Exactly. They were really in a bind.
Yeah. I feel bad for those detectives and such, because I'm sure that they feel
sick.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Were you as stunned and shocked as I was that she was that involved?
I am shocked and stunned that any human being can treat God's creatures in this way.
Totally, yes. That's very true. But as you're viewing it,
yeah,
are you thinking?
I told you, I was like, I hope she's okay. I hope that he doesn't hurt her. Like, I thought it was all him.
Me too. I can't even. I'm still like.
But then when you learn more about her evil, her darkness, and let's transition into the whole thing about darkness, okay? When I learned that she was involved in dark arts, and she was involved in, allegedly from her friends, saying that she was obsessed with death, and she was into Ouija boards and who knows what else, well then, I'm like, yeah.
Okay, the only thing I'd say about that, there were a lot of people in that time period, because I mean, in 1987 I was 18, and there were a lot of people who were curious with Ouija boards, or they'd have sleepovers, and I'm honest.
Did they want to dig up their dead cats, Catherine?
No.
Did they want to throw their gerbil out the window with a fake parachute to see
not
if
that I know of, but
Okay.
but I'm just saying that there was a lot of people were. I mean, I didn't. I was too afraid to get into any kind of Ouija board, but I don't know. I guess
I think that she had so maybe her curiosity led her down this dark path.
Yeah.
And she just kept going and going and going. And so was it like some sort of a genetic flaw in her? Because her parents seemed totally normal. Her parents didn't seem to be like that.
Yeah, they were like an all-American family, according to what we saw.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's go into that then, because I want to talk a little bit about how. So we were watching this documentary, and I had been following the Sean Combs case. Okay, the P. Diddy. If you don't know who he is,
you don't need to.
Well, he's in the music business. He's a producer of music, and he's a rapper or whatever they call it. I don't know, but he is just. He was accused of all of these awful things. Not
really awful.
Not murder like these two, but all of the SA stuff. And so this big trial came up.
People.
Yes, drugging participants or non-participants, victims, I guess you would call them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there was all of that. So a lot of you listening, I'm sure you've heard all of that. And P. Diddy is still in jail right now, waiting to see what his fate is. He was found guilty by a jury of his peers of 2 crimes, 2 out of the 5 that he was accused of. And those 2 crimes were something about like prostitution across state lines. So the sentence and such is not going to be near what it could be.
What it should be.
If he had, I think that he should have more, but whatever, this is our legal system. And then you have Michael Tate, who is in the Christian world. And this is all new to me. It just popped up on my feed, probably because I'm doing research for this podcast.
Yeah.
And Michael Tate is a former Christian singer, artist. He formed the band DC Talk, and he was also the lead singer for the band the Newsboys or whatever they call them.
And we have seen him twice.
Yeah, we saw him.
We saw him at the Franklin Graham thing
in Joliet.
And we saw him in church.
We did
when we were in Tennessee.
Yes, we were in Franklin, Tennessee, and so that's like the hub of Christian music and country music. And we were there with my former manager and his wife, and they attended this church, and we were with them, and there he walked in.
Yeah.
There he was.
He walked in when we were in the lobby or something.
Yeah, just to like be a worshiper, you know?
Yeah. Oh, sick.
And the things that are being, and he admitted, he put out a statement on Instagram. If you go to his Instagram, Michael Tate Instagram page or whatever they call it, he put on a long letter that said, I'm sorry, most of this is true, what people are saying about me. That it's largely true. He didn't admit to everything that now is coming out. Because, you know, once you kind of open the door, the light starts to come in, everybody.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I want to say, because justice. I've been talking to you about justice, you know, off the air. I mean, we talk every day. And I personally have been in the book of Esther and learning about King, I call him King Xerxes, but his name is actually King Xerxes.
Yeah.
But he was a first-class jerk. He was like one of these guys. Just he objectified people.
That's right.
And he forced, you know, his way into, he got whatever he wanted. Of course, he was the king. But there were victims.
Yeah.
There were real victims of his behavior. These two goofballs, Ken and Barbie, you know, Paul and Karla. They're victims. That has a rippling effect.
Yeah.
P. Diddy. There were victims. It has a rippling effect. And, of course, this Michael Tate. And I just think that justice is not really found on this earth.
Right.
How can you possibly find the absolute truth? God knows.
Right.
But the courts don't know, and people don't know. So I just want to encourage, you know, anybody listening, and if you've ever had any kind of injustice, I guess that's kind of our call to action. I'll get to that in a second. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say about light, bringing light to the darkness?
Well, I do want to say this, that, you know, for the Christian, and I would say even for those who are not, we have God-given intuition. We have God-given, a sense of right and wrong, even if you're a psychopath. And no temptation is given to us. I can't remember the exact scripture, but we should be able to have the power to walk away from it, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that we are capable of also giving in to, you know, such depravity and such darkness it's one of the reasons why we're doing the podcast. We want to shed light. We want to have encouragement. There has to be a purpose, you know, for doing that. So that is why we're talking about things in the dark. They've got to come to light. There will be justice, like you pointed out, on the other side of this earth, in heaven. And I know that that's probably not enough to console a hurting and grieving family, you know, especially if you're not a believer. But I don't know. It's just something we've got to hang on to. You know?
The scripture that you're thinking of is 1 Corinthians 10:13.
Yes.
No temptation has seized you except what is common to man, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but will give you a way out so that you can stand up under it.
Thank you. Thank you. I know the scripture, but I can't call it to the address and the whole thing.
Well, you did.
Anyway. Yes.
Yeah, it's sad to me. It breaks my heart. You know, as I've been studying in Esther, it just breaks my heart over and over again. And when I mean, I can't help it. I just feel empathy for all these mothers. I think of myself as a mother. I would just be so crushed if somebody hurt my child like that. And even Cassie Ventura, who was one of the people that testified against Sean Combs, in her testimony, she said, "You can't just use me like a piece of garbage. I'm somebody's child."
Wow.
And I think about that, and I think that we're all somebody's child, and we're all children of God.
Yeah.
We're precious. Let's stop, everybody.
Yeah.
Stop.
Right.
And I do think that there are people who are like sociopaths who lack empathy, and they just don't have any kind of remorse or moral compass at all.
That's right. But they do know right from wrong. They know it.
Well, or they wouldn't cover it up.
Exactly.
Because these people were covering this up. But but notice that they got a little more brazen every time. Like, just going back real quick to the when they concealed the body in cement. Because when they revealed it on the docuseries, we were like, wait, what? How did they do that? Well, I went back and found out that they bought a bunch of bags of cement, and they dismembered the body. And they put body parts in, tried to encase it in cement, but one of them got too heavy for them to throw it in the river, so they just left it on the shore. And that's how the fishermen found it, there on the shore, you know?
Yeah.
Just really, really depraved.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on from there. We want to share some scripture.
Yes.
So, Catherine, what have you got for our friends?
We have Ephesians 5:11 through 13. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them.
Amen.
It is shameful to even mention what the disobedient do in secret, but everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light.
You know, and these things are hard to talk about. It's hard to even imagine that somebody is capable of such atrocities.
Yeah.
But we have to look out for each other. And
we do.
I'm sorry, but we do have to be a little bit like suspicious.
I know. Others. I don't like to live like that, but at the same time, like that one gal says, head on a swivel. You know, keep your head on a swivel. Yeah. You have to be aware because they're kind of everywhere. There's more good than bad. I
followed this gal on Instagram. Her name is Amber. I can't remember her last name right now, but she's a bodyguard. And first of all, I love that she's a chick and she's a bodyguard, and she's so like tough.
She like
she is
bad.
Yeah, she is. And I love her, and I love the way she talks. So I watch her all the time.
Do you?
And she gives these little tips, and she's constantly saying, "Head on a swivel." You just have to be aware. You don't have to be paranoid. But you just have to be aware.
Yeah. Kenny always says to me, every time that we go somewhere, he'll say, be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I want to give this little call to action. If you're somebody who's going through something dark right now, right? So maybe there's something or someone who has crushed your spirit. I just want to give you some encouragement that, no matter how dark it is, no matter how bad you're grieving, just know that God sees every tear that falls, and he will meet you there in the pain of that.
That's right.
And so the call to action would be let him comfort you.
Yeah.
Let yourself really kind of feel whatever the feels are, and let him bring God into it. And I know sometimes it can be hard because I think of these poor families that lost their loved ones in the flooding in Texas.
Yeah.
And that's a Christian camp that was so devastated by that. And I can't stop thinking about that.
I know.
But just let God meet you in your pain, and know that justice does come. It comes on the other side, and healing is there.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Well, you've been listening to the Life Happens Laugh Anyway podcast, and I'm still comedian Tracy DeGraff.
I'm still Catherine.
See you next time.
Goodbye.